If you've ever picked up a bottle of bourbon and felt like it spoke a different language, you're not alone. Mash bill, bottled in bond, cask strength, single barrel, small batch. Here's the thing. Half of these actually mean something, the other half are just marketing. I buy bourbon for a living, so let me give you every term that matters in plain English. First up, we have mash bill. This is just the recipe. Corn, rye, wheat, barley. To legally be called bourbon, it has to be at least 51% corn. That's the law. Everything above that 51% is where the personality comes from. More rye, you get that spice, pepper, that kick on the back of your tongue. More wheat, it gets softer, rounder, easier to drink, almost like a sponge cake. One example is Castle & Key. This is actually a great example of what a wheated bourbon should taste like. Same category, but completely different from any other high rye bourbon. Next up is straight bourbon, which means that it's bourbon, so it has to meet all the requirements of being a bourbon, but it also has to be aged at least 2 years to be called straight bourbon. No added color, no added flavor, otherwise it would be flavored whiskey. If it's under 4 years, they have to put the age right on the bottle. So if no age is printed, that means it's at least 4 years. That's the floor though, not the ceiling. Next one is rye whiskey. This is its own different category. Instead of 51% corn, it's at least 51% rye. That's where you get that spice, the pepper, the dryness on the finish. If you taste something like the Frey Ranch, you immediately understand why rye is its own thing. This is actually one of my favorite ryes out there. Next one is bottled in bond. This one actually means something and has actual legal weight to it. One distillery, one distilling season, one master distiller, and aged for at least 4 years in a federally bonded warehouse and bottled at exactly 100 proof. Let me tell you why. Back in 1897, this became law because people were literally being poisoned by fake whiskey. So when you see bottled in bond on a label, somebody put their name on the line. This Old Fitzgerald or this Jimmy Red, these are the bottles where that stamp is telling you something is real. It's honestly some of the best value on any shelf in America. Next up is cask strength or barrel proof. Same thing. Whatever came out of the barrel is exactly what went into that bottle. And that's what you'll be tasting. No water was added during the bottling process. Frey Ranch Uncut is a perfect example of this. You're tasting it the way the distiller tasted it and meant to be tasted. And you can always add water at home. You can't take it out once it's watered down. Whoa, this one's my favorite. Single barrel. This means that every bottle came from one single barrel, not blended with anything else or not a bunch of barrels dumped it all together. This New Louisville is actually our own single barrel pick. We went through a bunch of barrels and not every single barrel tastes the same. And we chose this one because it tasted the best to me. It actually tastes like sea salt dark chocolate, so that's why we named it that. Every bottle came out of that one piece of wood, and that's exactly what makes single barrels cool. And it's also why the next batch might taste completely different, or the next barrel, I guess. Next up is age statement. If there's a number on the bottle, that's the youngest whiskey in there. Dark Art says that this is 8 years old. That means there might be older barrels in this blend, but nothing younger than 8 years old. No age statement, but it says straight bourbon, then it's at least 4 years old like we saw earlier. Beyond that, it's the distillery's call. Proof and ABV. Simple math. Proof is just ABV times 2. So 100 proof is 50% alcohol. Higher proof usually means more flavor and more character because there's less water diluting it. So if a distillery is bottling at 80 proof when they could go higher, that's a business decision, or it just tastes good at 80 proof and it didn't really taste that good at a higher proof. More water means more bottles out of the same barrel though, so it could be a business decision as well. Double oak. For the longest time, I didn't know what double oak means. It's a confusing term. They take bourbon that's already been aged in one new charred oak barrel and then they dump it into a second new charred oak barrel. More wood, more char, more caramel and vanilla. This Pureless double oak is a great example. It's darker, richer, way heavier on the oak than their standard bourbon. Now toasted is different from charred, and a lot of people mix these two up. A charred barrel gets set on fire like black alligator skin on the inside. A toasted barrel, however, gets heated up slowly, so the wood browns instead of burning. More caramel, more baking spice, less of that smoke. Like this First West toasted oak, taste it next to their standard small batch and you'll get it immediately. Finished bourbon. Finished in port, finished in sherry, finished in rum. The bourbon ages in its regular charred oak barrel first, and then it gets moved into a second barrel that used to hold something else. Moonlight Mayhem does a white port finish. Rough Rider does a rum cask finish. This can be incredible. It can also be a way to cover up young rough whiskey with sugar. It depends entirely on who's doing it. Now small batch. No legal definition, none. Small batch at one distillery could be 20 barrels, at another it's 200 barrels. It's whatever they want it to be. So if that's the most impressive thing on your label, I'm not exactly doing backflips. Handcrafted, artisanal, craft, same deal. These are vibes, not facts. A factory pumping out 10 million cases a year can legally call itself handcrafted. So when you see that on a label, it's telling you how they want you to feel, not what's actually in the bottle. This one is controversial. Non-distilling producer, NDP. This is a brand that sources whiskey from another distillery instead of making their own. And honestly, I do genuinely think sourcing is a real craft. Blending is truly an art. Finding the right barrels, knowing how to combine them, that takes a serious palate. Dark Arts is a great example. Their blunt blend actually has tasting notes of marijuana. Okay. I'm not even joking. I tried it and I was like, holy shit, this has marijuana notes in it. It's right there on the label. So when somebody knows how to blend like that, I don't care where the barrels came from. Oh, this is a fun one. Buff turkey. It tells you all you need to know about how this industry works. Back in 2008, Wild Turkey was swapping out some equipment and got nervous about a gap in the production. So they paid Buffalo Trace to make bourbon for them. Buffalo Trace for the first time ran the Wild Turkey recipe, but everything else was pure Buffalo Trace. Their grains, their yeast, their barrels, their entry proof. The juice came out so different from anything either one normally makes that Wild Turkey didn't even want it. So they sold off the barrels. Now it's 14 to 16 years old. And a bunch of NDPs grabbed it and bottled it up. So if you know, you know. This one is Ampersand Optimus 15 year. This is one of those buff turkeys. So when somebody says buff turkey, that's what they mean. Buffalo Trace juice, Wild Turkey recipe, aged way out, and people are losing their minds over it. Here's a sneaky one. Distilled in Kentucky means the whiskey was actually made there. Bottled in Kentucky just means somebody trucked it in and poured it in the glass. Huge difference. They're counting on you not reading carefully. Grain to glass, this means the distillery grew the grain, milled it, mashed it, distilled it, aged it, and bottled it all themselves. Frey Ranch actually does this. It's rare because it's hard and it's expensive. So when a brand actually pulls it off, it's worth paying attention to. And one last one. Bourbon can legally be made anywhere in America. A lot of people think Kentucky is the only place that they can make bourbon, but Kentucky is just where most of it comes from due to historical reasons. But it's not a requirement. Texas bourbon, New York bourbon, it's all legit. So that's the whole spiel. The terms that actually mean something like mash bill, straight bourbon, bottled in bond, cask strength, single barrel, age statement, grain to glass, the ones that actually mean something, and the ones that don't. Small batch, handcrafted, artisanal, craft, now you know the difference. If this helped you, hit the subscribe button, and if you want to keep talking bourbon with people who actually care about bourbon, join our Facebook group. The link is in the description down below. See you in the next one.